Focus on your third eye, right here. Well, welcome. It's been a while since I've been here. Good. I'm Shiva. I see some new faces. I went into Samadhi when I was 5 years old. And I've spent a lifetime trying to recapture that. And I did pretty good for a while. But then just as I was about to lose hope, I met my teacher. It was in 1981. He's a little bit younger than me, actually. He passed away about 22 years ago. I could go on and on about myself, but it really doesn't matter. What really matters is you. I just want to remind you that you are an eternal soul. You're just here for a few short decades. But in those decades, you can work through some amazing things. We're on an eternal path of unfoldment. We're always expanding. Our world is like this, really tight. But when you start to meditate, that starts to loosen up a little bit, and you start to see between the cracks. And then as you continue your practice and you continue doing what you need to do to awaken spiritually, slowly you start to remove the darkness, the shadows, until there's no more shadows. We live in an amazing age. Enlightenment is awakening the world. This is a time of great change. There are many, many enlightened teachers in many, many different paths. And the trick is to find one that resonates with your heart. I don't have a lot of students because I operate differently. The operating system for the world, for those of you who know anything about computer systems and operating systems, the operating system for this world for the last 34,000 years has been one of fear, control, domination, and manipulation. And you find that in every area of life. We find it in politics, we find it in our religions, we even find it in our love relationships. It's full of manipulation, full of control issues, trying to dominate people through fear. And I choose not to do that because it's a false thing. People are motivated by fear, but I've found that in enlightenment there is no fear. What's there to be afraid of? Well, you might think, well, I might die. Well, you might physically die, but you'll never die. You were never born. You're just coming into this body for a while and leaving. But the changes that take place in the soul, how you progress yourself, takes place while you're in a body. That's why we have these things. So the things that are in your life are there to teach you lessons. I don't believe in victims. I believe in karma. I don't believe in victims at all. If things are happening bad to people, it's karma. And I don't understand all of karma. I don't understand why people would incarnate into a place where there's famine or plagues or little babies dying of starvation. I don't understand that. But I know that there's an eternality of life, and that we're all of the same spirit, that there really and truly is just one of us. Excuse me. Just stop your thought. You don't have to think. If you're having trouble stopping your thought, just look my way. Gaze my way. Because I have no thoughts. The spiritual path is varied, and there's so many paths to the top of the mountain. You find a path that takes you up. Follow a teacher or a group or some sort of a philosophy. And you work your way up the mountain of awakening. And when you get to the top, you see your path that took you there, but you also see all the other paths that go to the top. Everyone is going to the same place, and that's the awakening of the Buddha nature, or the Christ experience, or whatever you want to call it. It really does not have a name. It's beyond names. And that's your true nature. But it all starts here in your heart. As far as I'm concerned, any path that does not come from the heart is kind of not correct. Okay. So, I'd like everyone to take a nice breath. And before we get started, I'd like for you just for a second to think of your name so that we can talk. When your thoughts are stopped, there are no questions or anything. So think of your name a bit. Be present in the room. Good. Do you have any questions about spirituality, meditation, practice, anything? The world, even yourself? Yes?
How can one be sure that you're stopping thought in meditation and not falling asleep or entering into some kind of a fugue state?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. That's when we sit up straight. When you meditate, you need to sit straight up. And keep your head, your head should be up. When you stop your thought, I find it to be very dynamic. Your consciousness is here, and when you stop your thought, your consciousness starts to expand. You're not going to sleep at all. As a matter of fact, you're starting to wake up. So many times when that goes on and you stop your thought, you'll start noticing things like a clock ticking or something that you didn't notice before. And that's more of an awareness thing. And it depends upon where you place your attention. What you focus on, you become. You can actually put that on a t-shirt if you wish. So what are you focusing on? If you think that stopping your thought and you're going to sleep, then you're trying to escape. You're not focusing on the higher, on the divine. You're not focusing on the awakening. Let me see here. I think I can do this. Let's see. Okay. Just for a second, if you open your heart, we'll just stop our thoughts. Okay? And when we stop our thoughts, I think you'll find that you're not going to sleep. Okay? So just look up here and we'll just stop our thoughts for just a minute or so. So here we go. Good. Take a breath. How many were able to stop their thoughts? Just for a second. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Half. Not bad.
So Shiva,
Yeah.
when you're stopping your thoughts, but then you notice.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you stop your thoughts, your awareness increases, and now you're aware of people walking by and their conversations, and then that triggers up a thought.
Right.
So then you stop your thoughts some more, and the car or a truck goes by, and oh, think about a truck. So what we do in meditation is we give you a mantra or something to focus on. So when you focus on something and the thoughts come, you just turn your focus back to that. One of the things that you might use as a mantra would be Om. That's the mantra of the heart. It's the heart is surrounded by the lungs, which is air. So its sound is the air from the lungs. It's and then hum is what your vocal cords do. They don't say words, they just hum. Hum. And then when you focus on the third eye, it's Om. Om. And once you say that, you wait until a thought comes. So it's Om. And then when a thought comes up, you just say it again. Om. You'll find that when you meditate after a while, that moment of no thought is so peaceful, and yet it's very dynamic. It's kind of an interesting experience, really. I've seen people meditate. My brother dated this lady who's Thai, and she'd been a Buddhist her whole life. She meditated her whole life. She meditated every day. And I was surprised that when I saw her, how little she had developed spiritually. It had just become a practice. You can get stuck in your practice. So the idea is we find something to help us get past the sounds and the distraction and the calamity of life. I mean, it's very clamorous out there. And so we focus on a sound, a mantra, or perhaps, yeah, they have one here. These are mandalas. And a mandala, if I can grab this thing without spilling everything, you can buy these in metaphysical bookstores. These are really wonderful to meditate on if you're not mantras. And you just focus on that little dot. Your whole meditation, you just focus on that. And when thoughts come up, you keep your focus back on the dot. And you'll find that as you do that, your attention starts to expand. And you'll actually look like the lines are starting to kind of move around a bit, and that becomes a thought. So they go, oh no, back to the dot, back to the dot. And pretty soon, you keep your eye on the dot, and no matter how this thing moves around or changes or whatever, you keep your thought right there. That is a discipline. It's the discipline of keeping a mantra going during the times when you're thinking like crazy. It's the other thing that we many times will meditate to is a tanka, like you see on the walls here. Or on a picture of a spiritual teacher, perhaps. I've been inspired by many spiritual teachers. But when I had my teacher, I just kept his picture right there on my meditation table. And when I would look at that picture, I would remember meditating with him. And I would remember the feeling of that meditation. And I just recalling how I was to be in the room and everything and what the room was looking and feeling like. And then that's when I would begin my meditation from that point. I would start there and just hold my thoughts. Focusing, I always like to focus on the third eye or the crown. In my world of spiritual teaching, I say that the heart is the center of your being. This is where you live, right here. Not where your physical heart is, but where your spiritual heart is, right here between the lungs. If you want to know where it is, you say me, and you go, there it is. This is where you're at. And below this is the samsara. This is duality down here. Down here is news, weather, sports, sex, drugs, rock and roll, religion, and politics. And I think that maybe health issues and stuff like that. Anything that has a beginning, a middle, and an end is down here. In the upper areas of your focus, in these upper chakras, are the power spots. These are the non-physical. This is the non-physical area of your life. And this is the spirit. And the spirit is one. This is two. And this part is just oneness. All of these things lead you into the higher realms, into the higher gods and goddesses, and beyond them into nirvana. And anything between there and nirvana is a distraction. You just move past it. Easier said than done. But you practice. You meditate. You spend, in the beginning, you spend 20 minutes doing your breathing or whatever technique your teacher gave you. But you do it religiously. One of the things, when I first started meditating many years ago, it was with the Maharishi. It was in Transcendental Meditation. And he said the only any excuse for not meditating is a lie. That's pretty sharp. That's pretty sharp. So it's discipline. It's a discipline to sit 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. It's best to do it, of course, on an empty stomach or at least a couple of hours after you've eaten. And to keep your focus on your higher self. You're meditating not just to stop your thoughts, but you're meditating to awaken your mind, to awaken your spirit to the eternal. Christ said, I and the Father are one. As I am, greater things, you'll do. As I am, you'll do. You'll be. Enlightenment is all there is. When Buddha became enlightened, he realized that he was enlightened, and that as a matter of fact, he had always been enlightened, and that he would always be enlightened, and that everyone and everything was enlightenment. So we're not striving to get there. All we're trying to do is wake up. It's the path of awakening, but that's kind of a misnomer because path means you're striving. It's just waking up. And the way you wake up, strangely enough, is by stopping your thought. Wow. But it's not just enough to stop your thought. I think your intention needs to be on the divine, whatever you define that to be. Focus on the highest, the best, the most enlightened thing you can focus on, whether it be a teacher or just the clear light of reality. It's called the Dharmakaya. That part of meditation where you feel that meditative feeling in Tibetan Buddhism is called shamatha. Shamatha. Get it right. Probably mispronouncing things tonight. But it's that feeling. And then that is followed after your meditation with what is called vipassana. And Vipassana is you're bringing that meditative feeling, that holiness, that purity, that eternality, and you're bringing it down into your life, down into, all of those things I talked about. It's called Tantra. Tantra is the reconciliation of opposites. It's bringing the mundane and the things that are dualistic and pulling them together into oneness. It's pulling the oneness down into duality. And that Vipassana happens sometimes just a couple of minutes a day, but if you start noticing it and start watching your meditation and intensifying your spiritual practice, it starts happening more and more throughout the day. The day is full of perfect moments. You're walking down the street and suddenly the sun comes through and it hits a green leaf and you go, oh wow, a perfect moment. Maybe you pick up a little puppy, squirming in your hands, looking at you, trying to lick you, and you smell its puppy breath. Oh, a perfect moment. And in the beginning, you may only have one or two perfect moments all day. But if you pay attention to them, they start to happen more often. And then as they happen more often, they start to string together after a while. You may have 20, 30 minutes of perfect moments. And that's called Vipassana. And then we pay attention to what breaks us out of those perfect moments. What are the things that are causing us to lose our awakening? What's the things that are happening to us that is causing us to become angry, resentful, sad, whatever? We notice those things, and those things we start to dissolve into spirit. I use what's called a high heart. I'm sure there's other names for it. I just haven't found it yet. But the high heart is a very interesting spot. It's located exactly between the center of your heart and the center of the throat. And it's the point of nothingness. When I say nothing, it is nothing. It has no feeling. It doesn't have power, good or bad. It's neither light nor dark. When you touch it, all you feel is skin and bone. It doesn't feel like anything. But if you take those things that are bothering you, that are causing you to become angry or sad or upset, in your meditation you can just grab them. I sometimes even use my hand because I am mystical. I just grab them, grab those thoughts and feelings, and I just hold them right there in a smile. And anything that I pull in there, I'm putting it into nothing. Nothing is no thing. So those energies and thoughts and everything else that go in there have no thing to stick to. So they have to dissolve. Once it's dissolved, you breathe out the divine love, the unconditional love of the divine, to fill that space that was before full of fear and anger or mistrust or whatever. You fill it, and then you go back to your meditation. So it's in the dissolving of the illusion of things that you find are not spiritual. As you start to dissolve everything into spirit, then you're starting to get rid of those things that are keeping you from your awakening. Happens a little at a time, but it's very powerful, and it works. I've tried to give it many names. I've meditated for 30, 40 years, going into samadhi 1,000 times. And I never knew it was there. Because because it has no feeling. It has no light or darkness. It has no qualities. It is the void. It is what the Hindu calls Shiva. It is the dissolution of the Maya. It's what Don Juan Carlos Castaneda called the Nahual. It has no qualities, but it is what makes up everything in the universe. It is the most powerful chakra ever discovered because it is nothing. It destroys everything, but one of the side effects of it is that it works. And the side effect of it is that your ego does not want your world to change. Your ego does not want you to change. It wants to suffer. It wants to be a victim. It wants to set up walls and barriers and create me and you and this and that and up and down and good and evil. And when these things are destroyed, what's left? Well, there's nothing left. Well, then you say, who am I? And there we go. Now we're beginning self-discovery. Self-discovery begins with the dissolution of the self. All of us have shadow material inside of us. We have angers, we have upsets, we have resentments, we have abandonment issues, we have all kinds of issues. We have judgments, self-righteous judgments. So this practice gets rid of that. As we get rid of the shadow material and fill it with light, then pretty soon there's no shadow material. When the eye is single, when it's single, the body is full of light. And when the body is full of light, that's enlightenment. And you can live a life still in the body, but be enlightened, having rid yourself of your angers, your resentments, your judgments, your ego, just keeping enough to get around. So I believe that this is the time, and this is the end, and this is the era of great change. I believe this is the time of the awakening. I believe that this is the time of enlightenment throughout the world. And people who are hanging on to the old ways are having a very difficult time. They're fighting tooth and nail, to take us back, to keep some races above others, to keep men and women separate and different and putting each other down. We need to get rid of the shadow material inside of us. There will never be a beautiful world or a world without war until you get rid of the ugliness and the war that's inside of you. When you get rid of all of that that's inside of you, you will experience world peace. That doesn't mean that other people in the world will experience that, but you will. You'll find a compassion and an empathy and a wisdom that comes from enlightenment. Instead of coming from fear and control, domination and manipulation, you start coming from compassion, from empathy, from selfless giving, helping others selflessly, to do bodhicitta, selfless service, not expecting any recognition, but because it's the correct thing to do. You learn to love yourself, to forgive yourself. And then you start forgiving others. Pretty soon you start redeeming yourself. Christ was pretty clean on that. He said, If you bring your gift to the altar and you remember that you took something from someone, you took money from them, you stole from them, then you said you take your gift from the altar and you go to that person and you give them that you took from them and give it twice back. If you took 7, you give back 14. And when you give back double, then you ask them, is that enough for you to forgive me? I was mistaken when I took it, and now I want to make amends. You're trying to redeem yourself and your karmas through your actions, not just through thinking and believing, but actually getting out in the world and doing stuff for people. I've had some of my students who were depressed, and I sent one, she went down to a hospital where they had newborn babies, and they were looking for people to rock the little newborn babies who were in incubators, and they needed people to rock them so they would have human touch for a while. So they'd bring these little newborn babies, she would rock them. And then they'd bring her another, and she'd rock them. And her depression went away. There's all kinds of things you can do. Don't expect recognition, because that would be doing it for the ego. You want to do these things without really people noticing. You just want to be kind. There is no excuse in enlightenment and in the spiritual practice. There is no excuse for ever being angry, or hurtful, or violent. We learn to control our aggression. We get rid of the aggression inside of us. We get rid of that passion that just takes us over, what Eckhart Tolle referred to as the pain body. We learn to dissolve it. So that from that point on, when somebody says something or does something that causes you to just really become very violent and angry, you stop it. You start doing the high heart on it. Until when it happens, it doesn't bother you. Where it used to be aggression and anger and outrage and maybe violence would spring forth from that situation, you find yourself now coming from compassion and wisdom and love. You still take action. You don't allow people to hurt you. That would be bad karma. But you do no harm. And these are all things that you have to work out for yourself. It's very, very important for you to work out your own spiritual salvation. If you blindly follow a teacher without looking at how that affects you in your heart, and how, if you're just blindly following somebody, you don't grow. You're just a devotee. And in enlightenment, there is no devotees. Devotees are for beginners. But pretty soon, you start to walk on your own. Not that you forsake teachers or anything like that, but your teacher takes on a whole new meaning. Rather than you following, blindly, you begin to see what the teacher has, why the teacher has had you do what he's or she has instructed you to do. You look beyond the instruction into what is really the cause underneath. So that's kind of important. And I think I've talked too much. Do you have a question? Anyone? Okay. If you think you have a question in a group, not just this group, but in any group, even though the question may sound silly or kind of a little bit stupid, there's no such thing. The only thing about asking a question in a spiritual community is that your question must come from your heart, not your ego. is something your heart wants to know. And even if it's a silly question that other people think are just a beginning question, if it comes from your heart, it is correct. And when you ask something of a teacher, and I'm giving instructions for a lot of spiritual teachers out there, the question that you're not asking is probably several other people in the room want to ask it to, and they just don't have the nerve. So you should never be afraid to ask a question as long as it's from your heart. So, there you go. Let's see. Let's meditate to one song. Which one do you have there? Riding the Ox. This is a good one. For those of you that are familiar with the Zen paintings, In Search of the Ox, this piece of music was created. All this music that we're playing tonight is music that was created by my friends who are monks from my teacher. So this is all probably music you've never heard before. But this music is called Riding the Ox. And in the Search of the Ox, riding the ox is the part of our spiritual practice in which you, God, I can't just step into the middle of it. I have to begin at the beginning. In the first picture, the guy is working, and behind him, behind a building, this ox is looking at him. He doesn't see the ox. The ox represents his higher self. He's just living his life. He's not aware of it. In the second picture, he sees the ox. So now he sees his higher nature. In the third picture, he starts chasing the ox. And this is where people go from one teacher to the other, they go from one church to the other. They're trying to find their spiritual nature. And in the next picture, just after they find the ox and they find their path, it's called Taming the Ox. And it shows the guy, he has a ring in the ox's nose, and he's got his whip, and he's getting that ox where he wants it to be. This is where people get into a spiritual community, and just, the teacher says meditate 20 minutes, they're going to meditate 40. They're just always right out there. They're just striving all the time. It's like they're approaching enlightenment like they're going to a Navy SEAL boot camp. We've got to really just do this. And that's taming the ox. And the next picture is riding the ox. And in that picture, the guy is sitting on the ox. He doesn't have any reins on the ox, and he's playing his flute. In other pictures of that, he's actually laying his back on the back of the ox. So all he sees as the ox is going, he sees the trees come by, buildings or clouds, and he's just playing. He is letting his higher nature carry him through life. And that's what I was talking about earlier when I talked about Vipassana. You're just letting the Spirit lead you in life. You don't care. You're just following your higher self. Complete surrender. Complete surrender. And the next picture is samadhi, the dissolution of all. And then after that is contemplation. In contemplation, he's thinking, what am I going to do now? In that picture, there is no ox, because the ox and him are one. He's now enlightened. What am I going to do? And in the next picture, he's in the marketplace, bringing enlightenment into the world. It's a nice little group of pictures. I encourage you to go to the library, get on the internet, and look up the Zen paintings in search of the ox. So now we're going to ride the ox. And you'll hear parts of that throughout the song, but my friends did a really good job on this. So we'll do this. So just close your eyes, think of your heart, and open it, and listen to this music and feel the energy inside of you. It's pretty incredible. Good. I'm always impressed when I see new faces. It takes courage to step into a meditation hall with a teacher you've never known and just to see what's happening. I mean, it's pretty courageous of you. But even if I never see you again, part of you is already awakened. It's my Bodhisattva. This world is not real, it's just an illusion. But it's pretty good illusion. But it changes by the minute. And we go through changes in our life. We move from childhood into adolescence, to our teenage years, into young adulthood, having children of our own, watching them grow as we get older, watching them get married, move away, as our bodies change and get older all the time. And all too soon, 5, 6, 7 decades are done. They're all behind you. Okay. Just let the energy go right up your spine instead of letting it shift you. Just let it go right up the spine. Good. When it goes this way, and I understand that because the Kundalini does that to you. But if you can sit still and let it come right straight up, it'll take you right up a little to the next level. Okay? Just a little thing. Small correction to your meditation practice. Yeah. We're just here for a while. I can't believe I'm almost 73. I just can't believe it. But then I look around and I see almost all my relatives have passed. Went back to my high school reunion, 50 years. Half of them are dead. The others are on the way. We're just here for a while. I'm just passing through, so are you. But while we're here, we can make a difference. As we try to make a difference in others, as we selflessly give, as we love unconditionally, and try to do good, watch our thoughts so that we don't fall into negative patterns. We just need to start thinking a little bit higher, fill your heart with hope instead of despair. You can look at the condition of the earth today and it's going through some huge changes. I mean, it's pretty interesting. But rather than look at the end of it and how horrible it is and how terrible people are, how they kill each other and that sort of thing, change your attention to the beautiful things. Those things that are good and pure. Look at their heroism. Even in New Zealand, look at how they're reacting. They're not acting out of hatred, they're acting out of compassion and love. Wow. We let go of our selfishness. We eliminate greed, angry thoughts, terrible judgments. And we start filling our heart with love and compassion. And the way you do that is you start looking at acts of love and compassion. You start seeking them out. You start seeking out the heroism. And there's certainly a lot of it out there. Most of the people just want to live their life. They're not criminals. They just want to live their life and take care of their families. That's good. We get a distorted view. What you focus on, you become. If you focus on angry things and violent thoughts, you will pull angry and violent people into your life. But if you focus on the beautiful things, if you dedicate your life to helping others, selflessly, you will find that life becomes incredibly beautiful to you. Every day becomes more beautiful, more magical. You're made of light. Everything is made of light. You know? It's just light slowed down and it's taken forms. But you'll notice when you start meditating in advanced ways that, you know, things start to dissolve, turn gold sometimes. It's a higher state of consciousness. So really, I've said it about 4 times, but I'm just going to keep repeating it. What you focus on, you become. Are you focusing on mistrust? Are you focusing on fear? Or are you just letting it go? My teacher said that in meditation, in deep meditation, there's always a feeling of love, but that's not really what you focus on. He said what you focus on is the feeling of letting go. So when concerns come up, you let them go. When feelings of anger or outrage come in your meditation, you let them go. Feelings that you're losing control, let it go. Just let go. It's cool. Okay, so now we need to shift the room a little bit. Take a breath. Good. Open your eyes if they're closed. Good. Now to start your thought, I want you to think about your name. Ta-da! So, you don't see me that often. You may never see me again. So this is a time that I'm opening up for questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, whatever. Let's deal with it. Or expand it. So I'm just going to wait until somebody raises their hand. Oh, okay, yes. That was quick.
Do you not recommend to meditate or focus on the lower chakras?
I don't particularly think it's really that. You've spent your whole life down there. These things have been explored. What we want to deal with are the things we haven't explored, which is our spiritual nature, which is the upper chakras. The other ones keep us here on earth. You need your lower chakras. They're kind of useful, but they need to be in alignment with your higher self. Does that make any sense? That's what that's called the tantric maneuver. You're reconciling the opposites. And really, if you look at the chakras, they're really just mirrors. The root chakra, which is what you're sitting on right now, is it's when your attention is right there. It's like the first step in that in search of the ox. You're not at all aware of anything spiritual. I worked in Manhattan as a programmer, and I was around people who never thought anything spiritual all day long. It was root chakra. You come into the second chakra, and this is emotional, and it's, you know, the second chakra is so beautiful. It's art, it's a sense of connection, beautiful connections. It's a very creative center. Human beings are created here. It also is full of unbridled passions, like jealousy and anger and outrage. So these things have to be balanced up. But they're there. These are good chakras. This is your power chakra, your third chakra, and your heart. Now, the way this mirrors is the root chakra, which has no feeling of spirit at all. Its counterpart is the crown. So if you take your hand and get it nice and warm, then you put your hand right here and just move it down, just almost touching the top of your head, but not, and then move your hand in a little circular motion, and you'll feel the energy kind of come up and hit the palm of your hand. That's the crown chakra. And the interesting thing about the crown chakra is it's not attached to the physical. So when your meditation is in the crown chakra, you have no concept, you have no idea or feeling about the physical. You are completely lost in the divine. The second chakra is where we create new worlds, little babies and things like that, and art and things like that. The third eye is its spiritual counterpart. This is our view into the various different dimensions of life, the various layers of dimensions, the gods, the goddesses, ascended masters, all those are right here. It's a nice place. I love it. This is your hara. This is in martial arts. This is where you throw your punches from. This one. This is physical power. This is your spiritual intentions. So in your meditation, when you focus on your heart and then you move your focus up to the throat chakra, it's very easy then to set your spiritual intention in your meditation from here up to the third eye or even the crown. You can take the energy of life itself and focus it here. Then when you get to the heart has three levels. It has the spiritual nature, which is unconditional love. This many times referred to as the guru heart. It loves you unconditionally, or the grandmother heart. You know, I love little Jimmy. I just wished he would quit killing all those little animals or something. You know, no matter what, they're going to love you no matter what, but they want you to improve. So this love is a little conditional, but not much. But it loves you. It will love you forever. And you can't stop loving. But you want people to improve. You want them to be better. That's why it's called the guru heart. You want them to find their spiritual nature. You want them to blossom in spirit, to become aware of their own divinity. And then there's you, right in the center. And below, right directly, the lower part of the heart is our conditional. This is in duality here. When we get down into the lower heart, This is our conditional love. It's full of infatuation and emotion and sensuality, but it's also full of jealousy and all of that other stuff. It's conditional love. I'll love you as long as you don't make me write bad checks, type thing. So the heart itself has three areas, and when you focus on your heart, you realize you're right in the middle. Half of you is in spirit, half of you is in the flesh. Half of you is the divine, and half of you is the mundane creation in which you're existing. And as you awaken your heart, you start reconciling the various chakras until they're one. It's called yoga or union. Like that. So, does that answer your question? Good. We only have just a few more minutes here, so ask me some questions. Yes?
Is there concentration exercises you recommend?
Concentration exercises are good. The mandala is a good one. If you're out in nature, I recommend that when you're going to meditate in nature, that you pick maybe a tree or a rock on the side of a mountain or something that's kind of there, and you just concentrate on that one thing. Just keep all of your attention on it all the time, never allowing your eyes to move around. You keep it right there. And as you keep your attention there, you'll find that the awareness starts the awareness starts to expand, and your thoughts start to slow down until they stop, and then you'll start seeing all kinds of things. You'll start seeing the mountains move, or auras, or different people see different things. But by focusing on one thing, you begin meditation. That's what meditation is. It's a focusing on one thing, whether it's a mantra, or a yantra, or a tanka, or a candle, or the picture of a teacher. You're focusing on one thing. And anything that comes up, you ignore it. That's the discipline of meditation. Maybe just the breath, I've been in meditation, all we did was just sit and watch the breath. It's an interesting experience. So, the focusing on one thing is discipline itself. The other discipline is setting your body and making your body submit to your will. Your body wants to get up, it wants to walk around, it wants to run, it wants to do anything but sit still and dissolve. When I was studying with my teacher in New York many, many years ago, obviously I think many years ago, we were meditating 45 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. And it was nice, it was doing good. Then he upped it to 45 minutes in the morning. So, okay, I can do that. So I did 45 minutes for about a month or so. And then one night he walked in and he says, okay, 90 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the evening. The next morning I didn't want to do 90 minutes. I was having to get up at 4 in the morning anyway to do my meditation and then do my run and shower and eat and get on the Metro North and to go into Manhattan to my job. I mean, I had long days. I'd start out at 4 in the morning and get in bed at 11:30 at night after it was all done. And I certainly didn't want to do 90 minutes in the morning. So I sat down the next day and I put my clock was there. I got one of those, I got a digital clock so it didn't tick. So I sat there, I had the clock on there, and I'd sit there and meditate, and my eye would crack open, 10 minutes. Long time, 20 minutes, oh man, this is just dragging on. 30, 45 minutes, oh boy, it's time to stop. Oh no, I'm only halfway there, oh no. And I went through the whole 90 minutes complaining and trying to hope it would be over. And I stood up at the end of the meditation. I stood up and I looked at my meditation table, and I was ashamed. I was ashamed. I set my ass right back down and I did another 90 minutes. Made me late for my work, I didn't care. I did the 90 minutes. After that, I never had a problem with the 90 minutes. But I had to overcome my body. I had to overcome that part of me that did not want to do it. And it's a discipline. We have to control the body. We have to discipline ourselves. And it's a kind of a tough thing to do sometimes. But it just depends on what's important in your life. And for me, the awakening process was always paramount since I was 5. Go into samadhi at 5, you know, your life kind of goes crazy. My teacher said, and I can say it myself, enlightenment is easy. You just have to want it more than anything. And as you contemplate it, you'll find your life is full of things. It's full of family, it's full of jobs, it's full of money concerns, it's full of politics, it's full of everything. It's full of everything. And you have to want enlightenment more than anything. And that means willing to give anything up to Spirit. And don't expect to do that right away. You have to build yourself up to it. Start with the little things. Start getting rid of your angers. Start getting rid of your resentment. Start getting rid of your vindictiveness. Start getting rid of that sarcasm that you think is so funny, and it's not. You know, get rid of, you should never ever trash talk. It's such a destructive thing. Karmically destructive. It just does harm. Watch your words. Your words are prayers. Every word you say is a spell you're casting. Oh, I just don't have enough money for this week. Really? Is that really what you want? No money for this week? Instead of saying what you don't want, why don't you just state what you would desire to have in a positive way? You want peace in your life? Then you'll have things that cause anger and outrage come up, so you have a chance to turn that into peace. The Tibetan Buddhists pray for opposition because it lets them work on themselves. It's easy to be at peace when you're, you know, sitting in a hut at the edge of the forest and the birds are chirping and there's nothing. That's easy to have peace there. Not so easy to walk into the city where the traffic and panhandlers and kids are yelling and dogs are barking and it smells terrible and all this calamity. Not so easy to have peace there. But to the enlightenment, that's where you need to have it. Otherwise, you know, it wouldn't be that hard. Anyway. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go with you first.
I just want, it's my first time here.
Uh-huh.
So, well, Sandra invited me because
Yeah.
I'm here a student. And I just experiment something that I don't know where was it. Like, I think you touched my soul.
Yeah?
I have a lot of things going on, but I couldn't like remove everything.
Right, I understand.
It was so hard to breathe for me.
Well, just... And in deep meditation, you don't breathe. I have to actually remind people to take a breath. It's a subtle breath. I mean, your body is still functioning. You're not going to die. But when you move your consciousness into spirit, then you don't breathe. So I'm happy she's your teacher. I'm her teacher. So this is a lineage, okay? So to prepare for your time to be with me, which won't be that often, you know, every few months or so, you need to prepare for that with her. She's a very advanced teacher. I wouldn't have told her to teach if she wasn't ready, and she's very ready. You're lucky to have her. And you'll have her every week. She's there for you. So that's a good thing. And I'm glad you made it tonight. You know, it's a beginning.
Yeah.
It's a beginning. Yes? Yes. Good.
Thank you.
Sure. You have a question?
Yes, so the field that I'm in, the computer science field,
Ah.
I went in for like ethical reasons.
Yes.
But the company I'm at they claim that they were ethical, but I don't necessarily see it. And I've noticed ever since I joined that company, I've took like the bad habits that other people around there took, where they like got into caffeine and like other vices. I'm just wondering how to free yourself of being codependent on another thing. So do your work and just sustain yourself.
The first thing that, you know, we want to say is get another job. But this is not the other. You're talking to Shiva here, so Shiva says use this job as your spiritual practice. To not fall into their mindset. To not do that. It creates your strength in you so that you go in and you become the one that lights up the room when you walk in. When people, when you leave your job, people come up and they say, it was really nice having you here, because your energy and your light is so good that it brings light into the room. And they will either change as you change, or you'll get so bright that they'll fire you. And that's still a good thing. Okay? But where you're at, you just shine the light. And when you find yourself falling into these habits that are not what you consider good for you, get away from the judgment. Don't judge them. But you take care of yourself. There's a reason they pay you. It's not pleasant, usually. There's a reason you get paid. Otherwise, you can do it for free. So understand that. Computer science is a wonderful thing to get into. I highly recommend it. It puts you into a nice mindset. It creates a discipline in your mind. And it's, you know, for you younger kids, it's like creating a computer game or something. It's like playing a computer game. You're putting things together and pulling this over and matching them up. And it's new. I was a computer programmer myself back in the day when they still had COBOL. So I'm a dinosaur for sure. Yeah, use your work. And you'll judge your growth by how little you let them affect you. And if they fire you, it's because they don't like your light. And that's not a bad thing. You'll go out and get a better job. But if you run away from things, if you don't face them, then you don't overcome them. So this is a good thing, but you just have to stay with your principle. Do your meditation every morning, 20 minutes, every morning, before you go. Don't eat. Do your meditation before breakfast. If you have to get up early, do it. But right before breakfast, do your 20 minutes. And then do your job. When you get home from your work, you got the work vibe all over you. I used to do that in New York. When I'd come in from the city, there would be a string of clothes from the front door all the way to the bathroom where I would get in the shower. I was just, taking off my clothes because I wanted to get that vibe off of me. Go in the shower, neutralize it, come out, put on some nice clothes, fix me a cup of tea, and sit down and meditate. And then I would go about going to martial arts or just my life. So you got a job. Good. Do your best. One of the things that we have to do is be impeccable. We can't be out there where we're always forgetting things and not keeping our appointments or showing up late. That's not impeccable. Impeccable means you're doing your best. And your best is different. Your best is different if you're sick than if you're well. It's different than if you're drunk or, whatever. Different things affect how you can be, but no matter what state of mind you're in, you always do your best. That's called being impeccable. So as you're impeccable and you start paying attention, which is called mindfulness, then you're holding the structures of your life very, very loosely here, but you're seeing the structures of your life through Vipassana. You're seeing it through the spirit. I have a lot of fun, when I was, something you might find. I'll waken this up into you. But now you'll go into the store and you'll have great fun. You'll walk up, there's the cans of green beans. And you look at Del Monte and Green Giant and, the Kroger band or whatever. And you look at which one has the vibe, because all of them were harvested. Some of them were canned at just the right time, and everything was, and there's one or two cans that will be just perfect. And you just, oh, that's the one. Maybe Del Monte this week, it might be, the store brand the next week, but you're picking out the right one by how it feels. Going into the vegetable department is wonderful. You get to go through all the fruits and vegetables. Yeah. Have fun. Enlightenment is a kick. It's a hoot. I highly recommend it. It's good. Any other questions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Let's meditate to, I think there's 2 songs on there from Canyons of Light. I want to say a little bit about the band. The band here is called Zazen. And there's only 3 of them. One of them's now dead, by the way. But there was Steve Kaplan, he played the electronic keyboard. So all of the, violins and flutes and everything, that comes from him. The guitar player was Joaquin Lovato, you know him now as Bodhi. And Joaquin is one of the world's greatest guitarists. You'll hear some of his riffs. He's world class. And the bassist is Andy West. He's a very famous bassist. And these 3 studio musicians went up to my teacher and they said they would like to experience enlightenment through music. So it's just the 3 of them, and no matter what we play here. And they did all kinds of songs, everything from rap through, classical to rock and roll through whatever. And then he had them go around to different beautiful places on earth and write music about it. So we're going to be writing, this is probably going to be what, which ones are you going to play? Ecology. Ecology was written in Scotland. And then let's do Mount Shasta first and then Ecology. Okay. Ecology was mainly just the guitarist. But Mount Shasta, we'll do Mount Shasta and Ecology, and that will be it for the evening. So sit up nice and straight in your chair. Don't fall asleep. Just giving you a hard time back there. Yeah, just let this music take you. But focus on your heart, your throat, your third eye, and maybe even your crown sometimes.